I just made this video for my Steve's Retro Gaming YouTube channel. We're about to do a Commodore 64 repair. Please go over and check out my Retro Gaming channel. A link is below. Well, I've been having trouble with my cartridge port on this Commodore 64. It's my main one, so I've been using this. Cartridge expander seemed to help. Sometimes this 64 wouldn't load a cartridge, but would work in this one, but not this one. So I'm looking down there. It looks like a pin might be bent. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the cartridge port here. Let's go see how hard that is. We're going to go out in the shop and put this on the workbench. Let's go ahead and replace this port. Alright, it took me a while to figure out how I was going to film this, so let's go ahead and flip this over, open this up. There's something rattling in here. Don't know what that is. Got 3 screws. Take those off. This should lift up. There we go. Gotta take this off. Gotta unplug the keyboard. We set this aside. Gotta take this board out, but over here I have my Jiffy DOS, so we gotta take that off. Well, here's the noise. These are pieces of cartridges that have broken off. I've got grounding. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have to remove 10 of those. Okay, so I snipped around all those heat seal places here. That was a little tricky. And this is the area we need. Another problem could have been cold solder joints, where if we just went back and touched up each one of these, it might solve the problem. But while I have it apart, I might as well replace that, because this pin here was bent in. I tried to bend it back out, but it was sunken in. So while I got it all apart, it wasn't too bad to remove this. I had only had two solder points, and you had to bend these straight, and it came right off. If we're lucky, the solder sucker. I got the smallest tip I have. Sometimes you still have to go over this, even with the smallest tip, with some solder wick to try to get this out. So this is going to take a while. If you don't have an expensive solder sucker, I want to show you. This thing here works just as good. Sometimes on really smaller parts like this, it might even work better. Let's fast forward through this. See, it does an okay job, but we need to touch these up and then see if we can pop that out. All right, that took about a half hour to get all those pins out. What I do is hold this up to the light to make sure I can see through each hole underneath here. And now we're ready for the replacement. Before I put this in, make sure all the pins are in, looking good. And then we're going to line it up. So I believe I have all the holes in place. So I'm going to tape it down as I flip it over, and we're going to make sure each pin here, each hole has a pin through it, and then we're just going to touch solder each one of these pins in place. Once you get 1 or 2 in place, then it'll be secure. get my magnifying glass and check each solder point. Maybe I'll use a multimeter also. Alright, so with my work glasses on, there's a pin here I don't like. I'm going to redo that one. And if I'm not sure, I can use my Fluke multimeter and check continuity between the pin and where it's supposed to be. So anyways, let's retouch this pin. And I was also making sure I didn't have any overlap. Bridging between two pins too. You can also check that with your multimeter. I'll show you. You got your multimeter here. And what you can do is just check two pins like that. And it should not beep. If it beeps, that means that you got solder between the pins. Although if it did that, and if it looked okay, I'd trace this. I'd watch the trace. Maybe they're both ground, and then they are going to be connected. Like this. See, these are both ground points. Let's put the shield back on. Pretty confident here in our work. So I just soldered these 2 points back. Now we have this little thing here. Flip it over. I was just going to touch up a couple solder points. Alright, so I'm just going to tack some solder across these points. And we're going to put it back together, go down the basement and test this. This looks like a good point right here to solder back together. There we go. Just going to tack it a couple places. Alright, we're just reversing the process. Put the screws back in. Put the Jiffy DOS plug back in. I put a T for the top so I knew which way it was facing up. We're going to plug the keyboard in over here, the light in over here. And then we're going to run downstairs and we'll pick this up downstairs when we're testing this. Let's see, we're just going to plug the power back in. Let's run my Easy Flash cartridge in there. See if it fits. Oh, snaps in nicely. Hey, it works. I got a box of bad cartridges. I think I'll try and see if they work. Maybe they'll work in this machine when they didn't work before. The hardest part, this project probably took an hour and a half to be honest. Set aside a lot of time. Most time it takes to remove the old chip. And otherwise, putting them back in is really easy. Alright, everybody, thanks for watching. Put your questions in the comments below. Here's one of the boxes I have of bad cartridges. Out of all these cartridges, this was full. All these now work. Let me show you. 3 Centipede cartridges now work. Whatever pin was bad in my old cartridge port must really affect these Atari soft. Because it also, Robotron works, Pac-Man works, Dig Dug works. Let me show you. These were in my do not work box. Totally worth it. Also, paintbrush didn't work, and it now works with this new. So, was it worth an hour and a half, 2 hours? Yeah, of course it was. I now have 7 cartridges here. Hey, Dig Dug. That's not very common. 7 cartridges that did not work now work again. So, all right, that was exciting. These over here, these still don't work. I'll have to take them apart and check for broken connections. Alright, so that's pretty exciting. Thanks for watching, everybody.